exciting things.
So for those watching and for those of you who are new, sometimes I'm always open to talking to your children in place of talking to you. And this family, I met them through this program and we've actually become really good friends. And my eldest daughter, or all of my daughters, have actually been babysitters for these kids as well. So our families kind of know each other now, don't we, Len?
Mm-hmm.
And this boy is one of the most conscious children you'll ever meet, and he has such amazing leadership skills. And you know, Lenny, I want to say something to you first because your mum also talked about it today. And I think that this is one of the most amazing things that I love about you. And this is something that, you know, to be honest, not even many adults can do, not many children either, but there's so many adults that can't even do something that you do really well. Do you know what that is?
No.
I really admire this about you, Lenny, and that is that you are somebody who really is so good at taking responsibility for yourself. After something happens, I know something about you that, you know, you're the first person to apologize and to say and to write letters to your mum and to say, I'm really sorry for how I behaved and things like that, right? And what that shows me is that in your true self, like in your heart, that's not even how you actually want that. Those aren't even the choices that you want to make when your body, you know, gives you all those feelings. It shows me that, you know, when you come back to being in alignment with yourself, you also agree, like, I wish I didn't do that. Is that how it feels for you? That sometimes you're like, why did I do that? I don't know how to stop it.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that about you, Lenny. Honestly, most adults can't take responsibility for themselves and put their hand up and say, do you know what, I was actually really wrong and I'm really sorry. So that's a really amazing thing about you. So what I wanted to help you with here is how that feeling that you get when you come into alignment with yourself after you've, you know, maybe you've run away or you got angry or you didn't want to change the situation, that feeling that you get afterwards, how can we help you kind of have that feeling before so that you don't even have to go through the process of making all the choices that you don't like that you make? Is that what you'd like help with as well?
Yes.
Yes, just go it down. Yes, please, Holly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't do that because you just get home and done with. Go on then.
Okay, so Mr. Len, let me ask you something. So this is what I'm noticing about you, and Lib, feel free to add in any moment, and Lenny, you can talk any moment. But what I'm noticing, I don't think it's necessarily just like when you have to do something you don't want to do, or when you're doing something you love doing and then you have to stop doing it. What I feel like it is, it's just change in general, that your brain, your guard dog comes out and starts barking its head off anytime there's change. Would that be true? Like, do you not really like anything when you're finally doing this? Now you don't want to do anything else. And then when you're finally doing that, now you don't want to do anything else. Is that what happens? Or is it only when you're doing something that you like?
Yeah, it's like when I'm awake and when I need to go to sleep, I just completely forget how much I like being in the bed, and I just throw a twat about it, and then when I finally get in, which mum and dad have made me do, I just remember it and I feel so sorry.
Right.
Are you talking about when you
want to go to
realise?
bed?
Are you talking about not wanting to go to bed, or are you talking about?
I mean, not going to bed.
Yeah, it's like you might be watching TV and you don't want to stop. You might not be in bed and you don't want to go to bed. You might be playing at the footy oval or the playground or at school, and then you have to go home. So any time that you have to do something different is when your guard dog comes out in your brain and starts bucking its head off. Is that about right? And then once you actually go home, or once you actually get into bed, or once you actually get off the TV, you're like, what's the big deal? It's fine. I like going to bed. I had enough TV time. I've had enough play time. So in the end, you're like, well, it's actually not a bad thing that I had to do this, but it's just in that one moment where you're like, my brain doesn't want to change what it's doing. Is that what it's like?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to add to that? Any
no,
examples?
Not really.
I guess, Holly, the other thing that I was talking about is more, and I had a bit of a light bulb moment today as well. It's like Lenny just would be more than happy to just make all the decisions for everybody. He loves making decisions. And if he's got an idea in his head and it's not actually what's going to happen, or, you know,
Yeah.
he just wants to make the decisions all the time. And we're trying to figure out the fact that trying to incorporate other people to make decisions as well. And sometimes being your parents, as hard as it is for you to hear sometimes we know best. Just when you're so tired, or when you're, you know,
Had enough TV or
had
something.
enough, or like it's up to us. Sometimes we have to be the boss, and I've got to try and figure out a way to soften the blow a bit sometimes, or just not even negotiate and just be like, nah. And that's worked well as well. It's just like sometimes you, in theory, it's like Lenny's trying to convince me of being able to watch YouTube again, because we went through a phase of him not being able to watch it because he got too addicted. We call guard dog crazy brain. He gets into crazy brain too much, and then he does silly things afterwards, like kicking and punching and fighting with me, and he doesn't like it. But he's saying like recently, Mum, I want you to learn to trust me again, and that's what I'm talking about. So he does recognize it, but he also really wants to do it. But what do you think about YouTube?
I like it.
Listen, I'll explain to you what's happening, and then I think I know how to help you. But the thing is, Lenny, no matter what the answer is, what I want to tell you the truth about, and I know you like hearing the truth, even when you know it's the hard. I know you can accept it, and that is that. Like, it's still going to be hard, and it's, you know how good you are at taking responsibility for yourself after something has gone wrong. Well, I want you, if you're willing to make a decision in your heart, that you are just as willing to take that same responsibility before it happens. So what happens is this, like, you're doing something, like you're watching TV or you're playing on the playground or whatever it might be, or whatever. And then, so you're doing something, and then you get told that you have to stop, or you've had enough time, or you have to go home, or whatever. Now it's bedtime or something. So you're doing something, and then you get told, and then there's this little bit of space here, and it's only a very small space, okay? And only you can control that space. Your mum, your dad, me, none of us can control that space. And it might be your big lesson in your whole life as a leader that you're going to be in this world, to learn how to manage that little space. So you're doing something, then there's this tiny little space that only lasts for maybe 2 seconds, and then that, if you miss that space, your brain, your guard dog's out, and now you can't control the guard dog until after the guard dog calms down, gets back in his kennel, and then you've got all the space afterwards. So it's like this timeline. Here's what's happening. Here's the little bit of space. Here's where my brain goes into crazy brain, or whatever you call it. And then after that, I come back to my heart, and I know that it was wrong, and I remember that I like being in bed, and everything's okay. Okay, so all we're talking about is this one little spot here. And here's the thing, Len. I believe what's happening in your brain. Have you ever heard of the word dopamine? Have you heard of that word?
When we talk about, yeah, okay, we have a few times, might have forgotten, but yeah.
That's okay. So dopamine is a hormone. It's like a little chemical that gets released in our body. Anytime that we are enjoying something, or we're getting, like, say, for example, when you're playing a game on your iPad, anytime that you win, or you get points, or something's good, or like you're the best at something, or like when I came to your house that day, every single time you did like one of those somersaults that, you know, Amani was teaching you, every time you do something that you're really liking, your brain gives you dopamine and dopamine and dopamine and dopamine. Now that dopamine can be really good, right? But that dopamine is a chemical. It's like, imagine that every time you get dopamine, imagine it's like you had like 100 jelly beans and your body's full of sugar. And then you do it again. You get another 100 jelly beans, and then another 100 jelly beans, and then another 100 jelly beans, all in like 5 or 10 minutes. If you had like 100, 200, 300, 400 jelly beans, and you had all that sugar in your body, what do you reckon would happen? How do you reckon you'd end up feeling? Number one, you'd probably be crazy for sure. And
Yeah,
number
that's
two,
don't be silly. Let me go.
And number two, you'd probably
Yeah.
feel a bit sick if you ate that much, right? Because even though we think we like jelly beans, if we have too much of it, it's not good for us, right? Do you feel sick if you eat too much sugar?
Yeah.
Right. Even though we think we like it at the time, right? So this dopamine that's happening every time you're playing a game or getting to make all your own decisions and do what you want to do, your brain is having, like, imagine it's like 100 jelly beans, okay? But too much dopamine is not good. It makes you sick. Imagine it like that, the same as too much jelly beans, too much sugar makes you sick too, right? Now, here's the thing. Here's how you can help your body get rid of some of that dopamine, okay? And this is the part where I say you need to take responsibility, because in this little gap here, there'll be a feeling in your body or there'll be a thought in your brain that if you can start to focus on it, you'll catch it, Lenny. Like, you'll be able to go, that's that feeling in my body that I know the guard dog's about to come out, or that's the feeling like as though I've had 1,000 jelly beans type of thing. This is like the little tiny moment that you get to stay in your leadership and you get to stay in what I call your center, stay in your heart, and you've got this one moment to make a choice for yourself.
So it's like my brain has to catch it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm too crazy and it's not focused, then my guard dog will just come out.
100%. And when that guard dog comes out, no one can control that dog. Everyone just has to wait for the guard dog to finish having his little crazy fit, and then he'll eventually go back in his kennel. But you can catch him soon, right? You can catch him. Now, let me tell you a couple of things that you can do to catch him, Len. So anytime, or what you can do for you to help your brain catch it so that he doesn't even come out. So what you can do, it's called, you like big words, right? You like to learn about your body. I remember you've told me this. It's called the vagus nerve, okay? And that controls the parasympathetic nervous system. It's a big, long word. Basically, it controls the part of us that stays calm and that feels safe. And if we don't feel calm and safe, that's when the guard dog comes out, because he comes out to try to keep us safe, right? So what you can do to control yourself is anytime, and like if mum and dad and grandma or whoever can give you notice on things, Len, we are going to be leaving soon. You've got 3 minutes and things like that. Any kind of notice you can give him, what that's going to do, if mum or dad says, hey, Len, you've got 2 more minutes, or hey, Len, we are getting in the car in a moment. You can go and have one last play, but I need you to give me your word that you come back even though you don't want to leave, or something like that. When you know that your brain is going to start to do all of those, like the guard dog's going to come out, you activate your vagus nerve. So number one, it's nose breathing, okay? Anytime we breathe through our mouth, it activates the sympathetic nervous system, which is the guard dog, okay? It's the part of fight or flight. Anytime we breathe through our nose, it activates parasympathetic, which is the calm response, which stops the guard dog coming out. And it starts to tell your brain, it starts to like regulate that dopamine, like all those hundreds of jelly beans. It starts to help our body with all those chemicals of dopamine. It starts to help to regulate that and start to calm it. Okay?
Holly, I think that's Lenny has always had trouble nose breathing. So he's had his tonsils out, he's had nodes out, but he's in such a habit now, even after having that, he's always very often. So he needs to focus on it, don't you? Yeah.
I'm telling you something, honestly, like I know somebody who had, guys, anyone that does mouth breathing, this was me. I had breathing problems all my life, asthma, whatever, and then I think I just got in the habit of breathing through my mouth.
Yeah.
I'll give you a real good story. Actually, I'll give you a real good story. So one of my health coach that I have, he was just telling me the other day that he has just dealt recently with a guy that's had narcolepsy for like 15 years. So narcolepsy, Lenny, is just where somebody's brain falls asleep in the middle of like driving or cooking, or like they don't even feel tired. All of a sudden, boom, they go to sleep, right? It's really dangerous. And they can't stay awake. And this man had it, and he's had all these nose surgeries and all of these things. And in 3 weeks after 15 years and tens of thousands of dollars, the guy that coaches us with health coaching, healed this man, and he's never had a narcolepsy again. And do you know how he healed him? He told him, you need to put medical tape on your mouth at night, and you need to sleep with tape on your mouth so that your lips can feel it and they can't basically open, and it will force you into some nose breathing, and you run essential oils or something at the same time to, like easy air or eucalyptus or something to try and keep. I mean, you might not do this at night.
That's what I tried, smelling eucalyptus leaves today.
Good. Yeah. And you might not do this while you're sleeping. But this man did this and never, ever again had narcolepsy. And this has been like 4 years now. And the reason is he always breathed through his mouth, which means his whole life, when he sleeps, when he's awake, when he's eating, when he's talking, his whole life, his body is getting told, I'm not safe, I'm not safe, I'm not safe. And it's activating sympathetic, which is like guard dog, guard dog, guard dog, guard dog. Even when he sleeps, his body couldn't recover. So it's already in this state of fight or flight permanently. And then when you get a dopamine hit or you get told you can't do something, like you're already on the edge. Your guard dog is already waiting to come out of the kennel. So what you can do is nose breaths. And if you can't do nose breaths, or even on top of doing nose breaths, Miami used to do this when she used to get a bit of anxiety and a bit scared. And
remember Miami? Oh, yeah, remember.
So you get your two fingers and you put them just above. I'll stand up and show you. Just above your belly.
Yeah, I can do this a bit.
Right? You put it like right there is my belly button. I'll put my two fingers above it like that, right? And then where my top finger is, that's the spot I need to push. So there's two fingers between the top of my belly button and right at the top of my two fingers. So like if my two fingers are there, on that spot right above it, if you push in hard there and you push in as deep as you can without hurting yourself, that pushes into your vagus nerve and that will start to calm your body, okay? And there's one more thing I'm going to teach you. There's 3 things. There's pushing in there, and what that's really good for them is like no one knows that you're doing it. So you might be sitting in class and your teacher's like, oh, well, here's the exercise you have to do. And you're like, I hate doing this. And you can feel this thing start to happen in your body where you almost get angry over the fact that you have to do this stupid thing that you don't want to do, for example, or mum and dad say, all right, that's it, Lenny, no more time on the TV. It's time for bed. And you're like, oh, like this, right? So straight away, remember that tiny little window that you've got, Len. Only you can take responsibility for this. No one can do this for you. Tiny little window. You've got 2 seconds before that guard dog comes out where you can stay in your heart. So you push just above there. And if at the same time you can do nose breaths.
Get up for a second so you can make sure you do.
If you can do nose breaths, that will instantly bring a calm to your body instead of bringing like more anger into your body. And the last thing you can do, it's a little bit harder to do in the moment, but I'm going to say it to you anyway because you're good at doing hard things, all right? And most people I wouldn't be able to say this to, but I reckon I can say this to you. And that is this. What you can do if you can take a lot of responsibility for yourself is you do something called box breathing. Have you called a box breathing before?
No.
You've done that at school?
No.
I'll tell you what it is. You can choose any number. It has to be at least 2 seconds, 3 seconds, or if you can do 4 seconds, that's like amazing. But 2 seconds or 3 seconds or 4 seconds. And it goes like a box. Breathe in for 2 seconds, hold it for 2 seconds, breathe out for 2 seconds, and hold it out for 2 seconds. So you go like in, 1, 2, hold, 1, 2, breathe out, 1, 2, hold it out, 1, 2. Or if you can do in, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, hold it out, 2, 3. If you can do like 4 boxes, that's all you got to do. 2, 2, 2, 2. That's 1. In, hold, out, hold. That's 2. Breathe in, hold, out, hold. That's 3. Do that 4 times, Len. Because listen to me, Len. You're a leader. We've had lots of leadership conversations, me and you, okay? And when you're growing up as a leader, as a child, it's hard, okay? We get called in our childhood to have to do things that are more brave and more courageous than other people. This is what it was like in my childhood too, because that's how we learn about ourselves, so that when you're older, you can help a lot of people like I help these days. And if you're going to have that kind of purpose in your life and be able to help a lot of people, you can't help others unless you can first help yourself. So this is why the universe gives us lots of things to practice while we're children. Okay. And we have to take more responsibility for ourselves. So you need to know that what your heart wants, and you know that your heart doesn't want to say swear words at your mum and dad or your gran or anyone else. You know that you don't want to really be angry and create an argument, right? You don't want to be like mean and hit people and you know, hurt people, right? You don't want any of those things, right? So
question.
that's okay. I know you don't.
No, he doesn't. He says, no, I don't.
You got to remember, anytime I get told something I don't like hearing, I've got 1 second to correct myself, and then 1 second to remember to push in my belly, to start doing a nose breath, to slow my breath down. Because do you know what? Your heart, how fast your heart beats will always match how fast you breathe. If you breathe fast, you tell your body something's going to happen and I need to run, and your heart will beat faster to give you more blood. So the way to slow down your heart so that your body doesn't go like, whoa, what's happening? And then your guard dog's like, whoa, I'll come out and save the day. If you can remember, your breath controls your heart. Your breath controls your heart. And that's all you need to remember so that you can stay in your heart. Find your breath, control your breath, breathe slowly. And if you can't be bothered on this particular day doing box breathing, at least that's okay. Just breathe through your nose. And the other thing I can say is that if you can't be bothered doing box breathing, breathe out longer than you breathe in. So breathe in normal, and just always make your out breath longer than your in breath. All of those things will stop the dopamine from going too crazy, and it will keep the guard dog away. And what that'll do is it will keep your body just a little bit calmer for your mum and dad to be able to step in, or whoever else, and say, hey, Len, like, I can see you trying here. Remember your breathing, find your breath. So, Lib, what I want you to do, I want you to really teach him about this. I was literally, even from reading your thing today, like, and now that you've said he's always breathed through his mouth and had sinus and tonsil issues and whatever, like, I think his body is constantly in sympathetic nervous system, which is why he's just got this quick switch that gets flicked.
Well, and also he tries so hard to, I'm very he actually loves his bed. You know, we've had conversations about reading and bed and whatnot, but he actually adores, he wants to sleep, but he can't. Like, he'll literally be lying awake in bed for an hour and a half.
That's why
2 hours, like, getting to sleep, and he tries. That's why he's always got the bags under his eyes. Like, melatonin works.
Another thing that helps that, if you want, is how much sunlight you get in the first 30 minutes of waking up. That resets circadian rhythms completely. So maybe you need to change your routine. Maybe wake up 5 minutes earlier, go straight out on the grass, ground your body, like put your bare feet on the grass so that you get the magnetic energy from Mother Earth, from the earth, and you get electric energy from Father Sun. Even if the sun's not out, like if it's daylight, it's out, even if it's behind clouds. Put your bare feet on the grass, even for 5 minutes, and you have to get daylight in your eyes as quick as possible when you wake up. That how much daylight you get directly in the cones of your eyes in the first 30 minutes or even the first 15 minutes of waking up, that part of the day determines how easy you fall asleep at night. The first 30 minutes. It's not just daylight in general. It's the first 30 minutes upon waking, and that changes all the hormones and everything.
Even if it's for 5 minutes outside.
Even if it's for 5 minutes, I promise you. Go outside, stand, even if it's cold, if you can handle it, stand with bare feet on the grass, because that will balance and ground your energies, okay? Because inside us, we have feminine energy and masculine energy. And masculine is electrical, comes from the sun, and feminine is from the earth. It's from Mother Nature. And we need to balance that in our bodies. So just standing on the grass for 5 minutes while you stand there and do some nose breaths or do some box breathing or something, and even hold your belly button in just above your belly, anything like that you can do to pull yourself out of any time of the day, Len. Let's say you're in a really good mood and you want to go to your room and do some coloring or some drawing. If you can put tape on your mouth while you're awake and go in your room while you're doing your own thing and shut your mouth completely so that you can only breathe through your nose on a day where you have got some clear sinuses or something like that. You can do that.
Blocked nose.
Got a blocked nose now, haven't you, mate?
For ages, about 2 years.
Yeah.
Not fair, is it?
Maybe you might need a sniff like eucalyptus or something first, like Easy Air is the best lib if you've got Easy Air by doTERRA. Absolutely.
Yeah, I got that, and I got them both actually.
I would run that in his room. I used to for Miami as well. Absolute constantly. Like I would literally never turn that off in his room or in the house. And
Yeah, okay.
even if it's 10 or 15 minutes, like if you start getting puffed, fair enough, take it off, right? Open your mouth. But even if it's for 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there and 5 minutes there, like when you breathe through your nose rather than through your mouth, it's impossible for your guard dog to come out. It's impossible to stay in anxiety or to stay in any state of fight or flight when you're activating parasympathetic. It's impossible.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, could we do that, Len? You and me away, because we're the ones that...
This is not a behavior thing. It's really
No,
not.
I know. No, I know. And that's what...
Not a choice.
I know. And that's what never has made sense before, because he just constantly just snaps out of nowhere, and he copes. I'm amazed to see what he'll be like when he actually gets proper sleep. And like if he does, I don't know, we've ended up, yeah, I don't know. It's hard for him because this is all he's ever known, and yet he still manages to function. And that's what explains. What are you doing, mate? That's why it makes no sense. He'll hold it in all day, and then he just crashes, and then we just cop it at the end of the day. And he doesn't. And I can feel it in his body. He just wants to explode, and it's not. Then he's gonna just say good night, and I'll just say good. I'll
darling boy.
Good night.
Thanks for the chat. I love having chats with you. Let me know how you go, okay? Just remember to push in your belly button and do nose breaths.
Yeah,
and let him know, like if your nose is blocked, you can push in your belly button. So there's still always an option. It's just not as effective.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think the fact that there's a physiological reason behind it makes it, I mean, obviously there's a behavioural component to an extent.
Yeah.
He's learned that that's what you do.
I think
it does make a difference.
Exactly. Yeah. Martine or whoever asked the question, it's micropore you can use, or just like the tape. What tape doesn't pull off your skin? Micropore is a good one. You can just get it from I'll put it there for you. But yeah, Lib, it's not a choice. It's not a behavior. It's becoming a learned habitual behavior, like in terms of like, his brain and the peptides in his body are just got like their own little cycle now, that as soon as he gets this thing, like that's the feedback loop it all runs through, just because it's done that so many times. Like the plasticity of his brain is so bloody ingrained in that kind of cycle. But honestly, I just think as I read your thing, I'm like, this is not behavior. This really is not. And we just need him to remember for a second, like literally, like just before he loses it, if in that little 1 second, if you can get him into like instant breathing or give him something to do, number one, his brain has got something to do. So you can't think of doing two things at once. You can only, it replaces the thought of I'm going to run away, or I'm not going to go to bed, or I'm going to swear at my parents or something like that, right? So it's like, hey, like some kind of word that you want to use, breaths, Lenny, breaths, or maybe use the word vagus nerve. Hey, remember vagus nerve, like something that he connects with, and he, not everyone around him knows about it or something like that. Just remind him, belly button, your belly button, remember your belly button. Anything like that is a cue. And it might not be perfect for 2 or 3 weeks, but if over the next 2 weeks, every single time he's potentially going to do one of these cycles, his brain's getting the message, belly button, vagus nerve, breaths, belly button, vagus nerve, breaths. Like after 2 weeks of hearing that, 10 times a day or something like that, and he's heard it 200 times, his brain is he's gonna start noticing the flooding effect when he just gets flooded with emotion before he's hijacked by the emotion. Yeah. Oh, you're on mute now. Sorry.
Oh, I don't know what happened there. Yes.
Okay. So
I mean, there's lots to work on. I think that's great. Just in terms of the taping, would you suggest just grading that? I mean, I wouldn't do it. Obviously, I'd start by doing. Obviously, I'd start off with doing it maybe when I'm just with him and he's doing some reading, when he's doing some reading or something for about 15 minutes, and I'll grade it. But it is a learned thing as well. Like, he can actually breathe through his nose, but he doesn't.
Right.
And that's why he
has been for me too. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I still can literally just catch myself mouth breathing, and then I'll go to breathe through my nose, and there's fucking nothing wrong with my nose. Like, I actually can totally breathe through it. But because all my life I did have same sinus problems, tonsils out, blah, blah, blah. It's
hay fever he's got as well, but that's kind of, he's outgrown that a bit more now, but it's not as much of an issue, but he does. Yeah.
But even still, it's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? All those things are inflammatory responses, right? They're like autoimmune type responses, especially like allergies and hay fevers and all that kind of thing. So how do you help that? Again, like parasympathetic, get into parasympathetic, and you start having less allergies, less eczema, less, sinus, less all these things, because it all comes from that. Like, it's like, well, that causes that, but then that causes that. So definitely you got to get him into nose breathing. And I would even give him, like I gave Miami the easy air. You can get rollers that's already diluted with coconut oil.
I could give him one to school, I reckon. I've got one.
I did. Or you get the stick, it's like like almost like a Vic stick, but it's easier. So it's healthy and it's pure essential oil. Don't give him any synthetic crap that, it just smells like it's eucalyptus, but it's actually not. So like I really wanted to say this to you tonight after I read that, and even like your mom and everything. I'm like, and the fact that he really does apologize, like he totally knows it and gets it. So we really have to take a different approach. We cannot come at this through behavior or choice, because all that happens is the child ends up feeling like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, what is actually wrong with me? Like, I must be, so hard for my parents to deal with. And eventually over the years, that starts becoming, like, I'm unlovable. Like, why do people even love me? Look what I do to people. Look how mean I am to people. Everyone's trying to fix my behavior, and like, I just can't, like, something's wrong with me. And then, that affects self-esteem. So it's like, sometimes you have to fully take your foot off the behavior pedal and kind of be on his side with, hey, I know you're trying, okay? I know that right now you're probably, even when he's about to hit you or something, but hey, I know that you're probably trying real hard to do that nose breath right now, okay? I see you trying. So, and then that like reminds him, but it like lets him think like you believe in him, kind of a thing, like, I see you trying. So try a few things like that. You've got to catch him as early as you can and give him a reminder, or you can come up and say, hey, Lam, I want to let you know, I need you to start breathing through your nose, okay? Because in about 2 minutes, I'm going to be saying that we're going to the car and we are going home. I need you to be fair. I need you to take responsibility. I need you to show up for me and for you right now. We need to leave, all right? In your heart, you don't want to, get the crazy brain out or the guard dog out, and I don't want it either, and it's not fair on Millie and Lockie when we all need to go. So start breathing through your nose. I'll come back in 2 minutes. Calm your body down, press in your belly button. I'll be back so anything that you can do like that, like, hey, I'll be back to let you know it's bedtime, okay? You've got 2 minutes, start nose breathing. There's no negotiation. I'm not doing conversations. The answer is no to any negotiation. Start doing your nose breaths, take some responsibility. I'll be back to let you know that it's bedtime. And so you like give him, like, before he even gets the trigger, like, let him know, hey, I need you to find your belly button right now. Okay. Find your belly button. You need to take responsibility. I think he'll respond to that. And like, we need to teach him how he can handle himself. It's not just like, how can you guys handle him? It's like, how can he handle himself? Because as he's getting older now, like, 8, 9, 10, these kids, they
hurts people. He can hurt people. He hurts me. And he hurts his brother. He hurts people when he does it on purpose. And I'm just like, and I still it'll have to be something that I have to work on, because it's hard, because I'm like, trying to think, like, there is still an element, like, yes, I do believe that a lot of this is obviously physiological, but he's learned this behavior. It's really hard to try and not get shitty at him when it's just like, Lenny, for fuck's sake, like I'm like, it's not all about you. Like, you know, it's not all about you, mate. Like, you can't just decide on the spot of it. Like the way home tonight, he decided that we had to do our click and collect, and he saw that this sushi train place was open, and we've been waiting for it for ages to open. He was so excited, and then he's like, we're going tonight. I was like, Lenny, both of them were going. I was like, we're not going tonight. You know, just like, we're going to go on the weekend all together. It's, you know, blah, blah, blah. I was very firm with it. Just lost the plot completely. Screamed blue murder, kicking the chair, wanting to change the gears, like trying to, and I grabbed the seatbelt to stop him from escaping type thing.
Wow.
He's like, yeah, hurting me. I'm like, I'm not. I had to like pull over about 3 times.
Yeah.
It's fucking hectic. And he was very, I mean, yeah, anyway.
He just gets flooded with like hormone completely, like literally hijacked by emotion that makes him uncontrollable, that makes any of us uncontrollable, right? Yeah. And then we're remorseful later, right? So yeah, maybe it would be good for you to go and give yourself a refresher on how to say no without saying no. That video is, I mean, you can just type in how to say no or something, and that will come up in the group, because I know I've shared it before. Otherwise, it's in the video archives in the program, like right down the bottom like it's not in any of the 4 pillars. It's just the extra videos I put in. So how to say no without saying no. Because that's the only other thing you can do to manage it. So for example, when he's like, oh, you know, the sushi place open, you know, we're going there tonight. His brain cannot hear the word no, or anything that even smells like it's going to be no, right? So what it needs to be is, how do I say a not now by saying a yes, but a not now, right? And so in that moment, it would be something like, hey, you know, the sushi thing's open, we're going tonight. I'd love to go tonight. Now, listen, you know what? I'd love for you to help me work out when we could go there. Like, let's actually do that as a family. Tonight isn't going to work because of these things, but Len, let's work out when we can. You know, so like just like telling him, yeah, love that idea, right? Let's work out when we can go there. Yeah, I said tonight. Hey, use your belly button right now, okay? Take responsibility for those nose breaths, okay? I know that you know, like, this is where your body might, whatever you say to him, you know, you crazy brain or whatever, without triggering him into that. You know, hold your belly button right now, go to your nose breaths, okay? I'd love to go tonight. Len, what I need you to understand, I'm just not able to tonight. And I know that could be disappointing. I get it. I want to go with you. And I tell you what we can do tonight. When I get these guys to bed, if you're still awake, I'll come into your room, and how about we work out a plan for when we can go there? Because there's a few things we'll need to organize to be able to go there. And it might be, you know, that's going to cost us like $70 as a family to go there. So if we're going to go there, that'll be a bit of an outing. So, you know, what could we do to put our money together, or what chores can you do to help out, to contribute to this, so that we can actually make that? I love the idea that you came up with about going there. So yes, we're definitely going there. Let's work out when we can do it. You didn't even say, but not tonight. Let's work out when we can, right? And until he says, yeah, tonight. And you're like, and then straight away, it's not like, no, we can't. It's like, hey, take responsibility for those nose breaths right now. Remember, you've got 2 seconds to do this. And then see if that holds him in enough of that space just to breathe through that little reaction where, you know, he can't get what he wants.
Yeah, I tried the old starting going on Saturday, and then I lost patience halfway. So I could have done it better, but that's fine. I knew it would escalate as well. So I just was pissed off about that anyway. But
I know. And okay. You want to get to the point where we can go, the answer is just no. End of story, and I don't need to give you a reason, right? But and we just need to give him little steps to get there while he's completely in constant fight. I mean, his body is literally just waiting for the saber-toothed tiger to jump out of the bushes constantly. And when you say no, when you say bedtime or we're going home, that's the saber-toothed tiger. Like, it's literally a reptilian brain thing happening for him. And yes, his brain has been ingrained and routed that way now. So there's a little bit of extra work to work through it, but it's planting seeds and keeping the end goal in mind. And using, like you said, bribes when you have to, or conscious, you know, what do you say, like consequences or whatever. Like, sometimes you're going to have to do that, and it's never going to be perfect. But the bigger picture for him is, Let's teach him how to manage. He might have a nervous system that is fucking highly strung for his whole life. He just actually might. I don't know. It might be part of his karmic journey. It might be something you can't change. It might be because of his nose. I don't know. But if that's going to be the case, let's start setting him up now so that in 3 years from now, when he needs to regulate himself in front of his friends or his girlfriend, or he's going out being a teenager, like he actually knows how to regulate himself before he, you know, ends up with the cops called on him because he threw a bottle at someone because he fucking couldn't handle himself and cut their, you know what I mean? Like shit like that happens when people just can't control those little moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he needs 3 years of like seeding his mind, bringing his nervous system down, and anything. You've got to focus on his breathing. Yeah, lots of breathing. Like, and do you know it only takes 7 breaths to alkalize the body? And you'll know if your body's really acidic because you can't even do 7 breaths. So 7 connected breaths, you can't do 7 without getting dizzy. So meaning like you go like through your nose, like that. I'm already getting dizzy now. Fucking done 3.
So saying connected breath meaning just
dizzy now. I push them out. That's how you got to, if you can get through 7 of them, you'll have an alkalized state in your body.
So try to teach him to do that. No.
And yeah, fuck. If you want to teach him, do some breath, any kind of breath work. If he wants to watch YouTube, say to him, I'll give you some YouTube. Go watch Wim Hof. Go ask Marlon. She probably knows good people for him to watch on breath work and stuff like that. Let him watch and learn about breath work and all different kinds of breath work he can do, and watch meditations that give you a guided breath work or something. Anything focused on breathing, reminding him that when you are doing breath work, your in breaths, well, for the time that he'll do, through your nose. You know what? They're happy to hold retreat and we do that breath work at the beginning, and I get you guys to only breathe through your mouth, right? I'm like, mouth open, big breaths. Or why? I'm wanting to activate anything that comes up in you for your flight response, anything that you avoid in your life, any memories of pain, anything that hasn't been resolved, anything that's been suppressed because of the fear and the fight or flight involved in it. So we do mouth breaths to get that out of you, and people go into all kinds of trauma things, and we're doing it for the right reasons, and we process that, right? Don't do that with a kid, maybe, right? But yeah, getting to look up stuff like that and learn, getting to teach you about it, like give him an interest to go learning about on YouTube if you can, and getting to teach the family, or getting to run a breathwork session for you and Joe, or fucking anything you can do to encourage him to do proper breathing. It's basically the only thing that's going to pull him out of all of this. And grounding. He really needs to get bare feet on the earth. Early,
which is why he just adores camping. He actually feels connected, which is why he loves it so much and why he's drawn to it. Like it is, when he lost it tonight, he just climbed up so high from the tree, and just that was him. He just wanted to be close, and I just left him there for about half an hour.
We are made from the 4 elements. We are supposed to have all 4 elements in our world daily. Right? When you take any species out of its nature, it gets sick. That's why no matter how well they feed and look after all the animals in a zoo, those animals are fucking sick.
Yeah.
Oh, we give them all the nutrients. We manage their food. We've got highly trained zoologists and blah, blah, blah. Great. It's not their nature. That species isn't supposed to live like that. And so anytime that any of the elements are taken out from us, that's how we all get. We all get sick. We all get stressed. We all get overwhelmed. We all get anxiety. Why? Where's the fire in your day? How much sunlight do you get? Where's the water? How much water are you drinking? Where's the air? How much wind are you in? You know, like including all the senses all over your skin, not just breathing. First of all, you're breathing, but secondly, like wind over your body is parasympathetic nervous system response. Yeah. And then earth, like where do we put bare feet on? In fact, not only do we not put bare feet on the ground, we have fucking rubber soles. So we insulate anything we potentially could have gotten.
I know. It's terrible.
And then why we're all stressed and sick, you know? So anyway.
All right. That's awesome.
With him, and that's a bit of a physiology session for all of you, okay? On wherever you are. I see all the comments going crazy. But yeah, cool. Awesome.
Thanks, Holly. That's awesome. Thank you heaps.
You're welcome. All right, guys. You guys all got something out of that, right? Yeah, for yourselves, for your kids. Sometimes they're not behavior issues, and we truly need to teach our children about their bodies so that they don't grow up thinking something's wrong with them, you know, and they can't control it and they can't change it. And we want to remind them to come back and go, you know, what am I doing to look after myself? And, you know, what does my body need? Yeah. All right. Oh, yes, you and your barefoot shoes. That's true, Miss Martine. Maybe kinesiologist to work in his note. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Need this for Tom. Oh, yes. Okay, Miss Shana, I'm coming to you now. Where are you? Yeah. Hello, darling.
Hi.
I just want to make a special mention to you and your daughter because I heard from my daughter. So, for those of you who don't know, my daughter Amani, she does mentoring, so she coaches younger girls, and she coaches Shana's daughter. But Amani was really excited to tell me about how India is doing the walk a mile, and her goal is to raise $10,000. And that Amani was so inspired. She's like, "Mom, here I am doing, you know, my burpee challenge over here, and I raised $2,000. India's going for 10,000. So kudos for raising a beautiful
yes.
girl.
Thank you. The big Leo heart. It's her 10th year of doing it. I started her doing it when she was 3. So that's why she's got this big thing for her 10th year.
Leo too.
Pardon?
She a Leo.
She's a Leo too. Yeah.
So's Amani, so's Miami.
Yes.
All right, well, that's good. Now, my answer for you is really simple. Love that you're getting some progress on the other stuff. I love her response. I will not partner with you on that plan ever. And then I won't have a partner. I'll implement the plan without you. Yes, that made me laugh. So the question is, so your daughter's 12, just for those watching the replay, whatever. And how do you work with her very frequent I don't know responses? How she's going to the I don't know, not because she actually doesn't know, but you said particularly when she's challenged by you putting in boundaries and her defensive mode is like, I don't know, kind of like opting out, right? And then you said, and then I don't know how to change the energy to support her to move through in some way. And then you said about her love language being words, which is great that you've started to identify that. Yeah. So my answer is this. Okay. You might not like me for this. The answer is, like you said, how do I, what did you say? What a sec. I don't know how to change the energy to support her to move through in some way. My answer is you don't. You literally I think you need to stop taking responsibility for what she needs to move through and just allow her to move through it. Allow her to find her own way through it without any guidance, just tapping into her own inner knowing. And if she doesn't know how, like, give her permission to not know how, like to not like accidentally and subconsciously and very unintentionally send the message of like, it's not okay for you to be like this. You need to process it and get through it. Like, quick, get to the other side of this. Like, get to where you're okay, right? Hey, it's like, you're not happy with my boundary? Okay. You want to say, I don't know. Okay. Let me know when you do know. And if she's in a half and apart from whatever she's in, just allow it. Like be as okay with that part of her in a way that you can teach her to be that okay with that part of her as well as she is with any other part of her. Okay, you're allowed to have your process. You're allowed to take an hour. You're allowed to be grumpy all night and not talk to me until tomorrow if that's what you feel you need to do. Like I don't feel the need to change you. Like, you're perfectly perfect as you are. This is all okay, and you'll find your way. I don't need to help you regulate anything or move through anything. You'll move through it. No matter what, you'll move through it. And I know that. So hold that knowing in your heart and let her.
I knew that was the answer when I wrote it, Holly. Like, when I was writing it, I'm like, do I write this? I'm like, because I know the answer. And one of my frustrations is that this is often, even with like a bedtime going to, you know, the thing where I'm like, I don't want to wait 45 minutes for you to have an answer to this, because I need you to have an answer to bloody well go to bed, because
So what question would that be, for example, that you're talking about when you say 45 minutes that you need an answer to?
Well, if I'm saying to her, okay, what do you need to do? What do you need to do to get to bed now? What are all the things that you need to do? And that's her. And then And I'm not wanting to prompt her because she knows what she needs to do. She's just trying to make me hold all of the stuff.
So yeah, and unintentionally, like that's how like she's learned to do things over the years because of
Yes.
your kinesiology gift and your ability to be able to help anyone move through something. The downside of that as a mother is that because it's so natural for you to do that and to know how to, she hasn't learned that she can do it without you, right? Or that it's okay to not know how to move through something sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to say to you is do not ask a question. Okay. So have a bedtime and you go, hey, India, I've made some decisions. Okay. And one of my decisions is that the deal is bedtime is at 8. Okay. I will, or whatever time, I'm just making this up, 9, whatever you say.
Yeah.
I've made another decision that I will tuck you in bed every night and I will come and sit on your bed and I'll like whatever you might want to do, right? As your regular thing that you never want to do until the day she leaves home. I still do it with my girls now, right? I will come into your room. I will sit in your bed. You will have 15 minutes of my time to the day you leave home and you tell me you don't want me in your room anymore. That's another decision I've made, okay? But not like I'm here to sleep and all that kind of stuff like we've already talked about, right? So if you're making progress, then going. So my decision is now. Here's the deal, okay? I've decided that I will make myself available at 8 p.m. until 8:15 every night. You want access to me? That's where I'll be at that time in your room. I will be there available. So anything. I'm not asking what do you need to do. Hey, India, just a reminder. Anything you need to get done before bed needs to happen before 8 o'clock. Just letting you know, you've got 20 minutes until it's 8 o'clock. I'll be in your room at 8 and I will be leaving your room at 8:15. And if you are busy doing stuff and you don't come in there until 8:12, then you've got 3 minutes with me. And that's okay. I'm not heartbroken over that. No problem. I don't mind. That's fine. Okay. And then like once she gets to the part where she takes some responsibility for thinking or making a checklist or whatever she needs to do to prepare herself for bed, right? Then you can do things, and I don't do this too early, just while she's adjusting to this, then you can do things like, hey, babe, I see you trying to get to bed. I know it looks to me like you're running 5 minutes late tonight. How about if I help you for the last 5 minutes so that we can get it done by 8 o'clock so that we can do it a bit quicker? So sometimes help her. Other times go, hey, babe, I'm not helping you tonight, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you an extra 15 minutes tonight only. I'm willing to compromise on my agreement. I'll be in your room at 8:15 instead of 8:30. I can see you need a bit of extra time, but I'm not helping you do it. Other nights you'd be like, I'm not giving you extra time, but I'll help you do it. So you negotiate on one thing, not all things, right? Not yet. Like, don't do that to let yourself out of your feeling just yet, because she needs to know, hey, babe, this is the deal. Like, I'm going to be in your room at this time, and like whatever you need to get done needs to be done by 8. And then look, and Shana, it depends how you want to run your house after this. For me personally, this is what I do with the girls. I come up to do tuck-ins at this time, right? Whatever, my time's different every day. I haven't had, whenever I'm going to be there, hey guys, I'll be up in about half an hour. Tonight, I'm like, hey, I'll be up about, between 9:30 and 10, depending what time my call finishes, right? Now, if you're not ready for bed yet, that's fine. You don't have to go to bed. I'm not in control of your bedtime. Like, I believe that we should give our kids, I teach, and what I've done and what I encourage is that kids have like ruling over their own bedtime from 10 years onwards, right? It's the first decision. It's the first part of learning how to take care of themselves that has bugger all consequences. You get a grumpy kid in the morning. I mean, it's not the end of the deal. You can deal with it. The worst thing that happens is they don't get enough sleep and they're grumpy, okay? So it's a really good way to start giving them empowerment and autonomy and things like that, right? In a way that they're safe, they're at home, and nothing can really go wrong. My rule is I'll be up at this time, and I don't care if you're not ready for bed. I'll be up at that time. So if you want to lay down with me for the 10 minutes, then you stop what you're doing. We lay down. I'll give you my time. And when I'm done, you can get back up and finish your skincare routine or talking to your friends or whatever you're doing. I don't care if you go to bed at midnight. Like, it's not on me. That you take responsibility for the choice you make, though. And I'll say, hey, if they come down grumpy the next morning, I'll be like, hey, like if they snap at me, I'll be like, hey, just pay attention to the way you've just spoken and what time you chose to go to bed last night. I don't know what time it was, but I wouldn't mind betting there's a link between those two things. So just check in on that, please.
Mhm.
I'll just feed them for their whole lives. I've done it. And like, I don't control it. I don't be like, if it gets really bad, and maybe I'll have a conversation with one of them if it's getting too much or something like that. But it's like, this is the deal. I'll be up at this time. This is the time you've got access to me. And outside of that, do what you want. So if she's like, I haven't got everything finished by 8 o'clock and I'm going to miss out on time with you, you can be like, hey, you can stay up later and do it. If there's any of those things that can be done after, I'll be in your room 8 to 8:15. 8:15, I'm out. And you're welcome to like whatever you need to do to finish getting ready. But I'm unavailable. Unavailable. I will be doing my own thing. I will be with your dad. I will be in my bedroom. I will be watching TV. I am unavailable for questions, for comments, for communication. 0, 0, 0. 0. But you're welcome to do what you like.
Yeah.
Then she doesn't get this over, you can do it afterwards. And then she learns to prioritize. What do I want to do before my mum comes in? What do I want to do after? Miami went through a phase, she's coming out of it now, where she liked that I laid with her to go to sleep, right? So she likes that I would lay and that would calm her down. And now she's wanting to stay up later and that's not important to her anymore. So she's like, can you do me last tonight? Because I need an extra 20 minutes. I'm like, cool, I'll do 10 minutes with this girl, and then I'll come to you. So like, once they're not expecting it from you and, all of that, they've got some, consideration for you as well. You can start negotiating. You can start being like, hey, well, or you can be like, hey, babe, don't worry about tonight. How about I just don't do a tuck in tonight? And you know what, tomorrow night, maybe we'll do half an hour. I'll double you up tomorrow night. It's also okay if we don't do a tuck in some nights. Like, I don't want you to get so rigid in your life that you can't flow with change and with things that don't happen sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all quite intertwined. I have to try and also bring that in, because and I've done this quite a lot, where I'm like, I don't mind what order you do anything in. I don't mind, I'm going to be here for this period of time, and, she'll keep spinning around on her silk and doing all of those sorts of things. And this is the stuff I'm going to have to go through, is when I say, okay, I'm done, that time is over, the rage with which she spins is quite something.
Yes. Yeah.
That's something that has to be shifted.
Your best way, and I'm probably not telling you anything that you don't already know, but your best way of dealing with that is to not energetically feed it. So in any of these moments where you notice yourself feeling so uncomfortable with the boundary that you're having to put in, or with the fact that you can't help her through her process and you just need to let her be grumpy and shitty if she wants to be and all that, like the work for you is to come into that space in you where you're like, honestly, like, where else in my life have I felt this? I'd be asking yourself that. Where else in my life have I felt this feeling? And integrate that feeling. Because if you energetically do the work to the point where you are completely clear energetically, like you're not angry about it, you're not guilty, you're just like indifferent about it. It's fine. Like there's just literally no effect on me. That'll be the best thing that gives her the highest level of security for her to feel safe with whatever she's moving through, so that she
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's certainly even some of the stuff, and it's always just nuanced language, isn't it? But some of the stuff in the videos and that sort of stuff with her with school has allowed me to totally feel at peace with, you've got this, and it's made a big difference. And it's a bigger thing for me because I felt abandoned as a little girl in lots of ways with bed and all that sort of stuff. So I'm having to work through and integrate that so that I don't feel horrendous about leaving my child to feel fall asleep crying, right?
Which is why you have a child that's going to have rage over that, to pull you, like to literally call you to the highest expansion. And something you can do is share that with her, especially a child that's been raised, in the world of energy and kinesiology like you have, is to share with her, not at a time where, not at bedtime, completely separate, middle of the day on a Sunday when you guys are out driving and you're like, hey, something I wanted to, something like this, complete unrelated moment where you're like, hey, I wanted to share something with you. And I've been wanting to share this since last week. I don't know if you remember last week, there was a night where, we had a bit of an argument and you got really upset and there was a lot of rage and all that. And I feel like I want your heart to know that in those moments where you're dealing with something hard, I want you to know that I'm in that with you. I'm not in your emotion, but I'm in mine. So I don't know if I've ever told you this, but the reason I'm like, when I was a little girl, I was abandoned a bit and I felt very alone at bedtime. And what's happened is like that whenever you are angry at me that I can't be with you at bedtime, it triggers that. And that's not your fault. This is my journey. This is where you're helping me. Because if there's one gift that I would want to give my child, like for the rest of your life, I want you to know that when you're 30 and 40 and you've got your own children, I want you to know it's okay for your kids to be angry at you, so that you, like, if that's how they feel, it's okay for you to not lay there with your kids all night, so that you can go and be with your partner and work on your marriage and have some time to yourself. I want you to know this. But it's very hypocritical of me to want to teach that to you, but to not embody that and be an example of that for you. And this is why at the moment, you might think these boundaries I'm putting in place are easy for me and you're the one feeling bad. Just so you know, they're not easy for me. Like you're working through your stuff, and this is a cycle that we need to break in our family. Now, you and I are changing things. Your daughter is going to be raised so differently because of the changes I had the courage to make, and you know what we've worked through emotionally together during this time. So you can share that with her, so that in one of these moments where she does a big rage at you, you can be like, you can literally tell her, India, do you know what? I'm going to give myself permission to put myself first here, right? I need to go and sit with my own feelings. You will need to sit with yours. Okay. I'm going to go sit with mine. You sit with yours, and, you know, I'll be back, or I'll see you in the morning or whatever. But it's perfectly fine for you to just let her know, hey, like, I am not just here for you, just by the way. And if I think something we all need to teach to our children is put yourself first. Like literally, even when my kids were like babies, I remember at Montessori, one day the lady that taught them, she said to me, Holly, I couldn't believe your daughter's answer today. She said, oh, fucking all of us were thrown by it, and you know, never heard it. And basically it was about, they said something about, you know, who's someone, I think it was coming up to maybe a Father's Day. It was like an event, or maybe a Mother's Day. No, like, who's someone that you love the most in the world? And Miami said, I love myself the most out of anyone. And they're like, what? Anyway, long story short, even when they were little, like I would say to them, you know what? I love you, but I don't love you more than anything in the world, because the only person I love more than anyone is myself. I will love myself more than even my own mum, my own dad, my own children, my own husband. I will love myself more than any of those people. And so I love you, but I'm allowed to love myself more, because I wanted that for them. I wanted them to know you're allowed to disappoint your parents if it's for loving yourself. You're allowed to disappoint your children if it's to love yourself, because when you go to love yourself and you go get the space that you need, you're doing that for your children anyway. Like in that moment, if it's for you, then it's for them. And I totally didn't want to subscribe to the, like, you know, I'll do anything for my children. If you want to do anything for your children, teach them how to love themselves more than anything or anyone else. And you can't do that as a hypocrite saying, I love you more than anything else in the world. Like that's basically not giving them permission to love themselves more than they love you.
Yeah.
Sense? And it's just subliminal, but it's so common. And many of you might now even be realizing, like, you know, like, what's the reaction? What's the visceral response in your body when you hear, like, Holly actually told her children she doesn't love them more than anything? Like, we've been taught by society that we should love our children more than anything. No, I'm sorry. Look, it's good for me. It's good for my heart when I can extend myself for you, put myself out for you. That's for me too, because I love knowing that I'm the mum that can do that can be there for you. But when I'm in a time in my life at any moment where I actually can't, where whatever's going on for me in my inner world means I truly cannot sit here and hold space for you without resentment or something, because I'm really depleted right now, I'm sorry, but in that moment, I'm going to say no to you. And I'm going to let it be okay that even hurts your heart on that day. Welcome to life. Things hurt our hearts sometimes.
Mhm.
I love you and I love myself more. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, totally. Absolutely. And I think it's a really important message.
Mhm.
Yeah. And, in the end, we can all, if we learn to feel our feelings, we can handle anything.
Exactly.
And that's certainly some of the stuff. I actually feel like, I'm sure it's not the case, but I feel like I haven't taught India as much as I know in, taking advantage of those when she's 6 and she'll listen to anything I say.
Yeah. And by the way, that can be true for all of us that do this kind of work, that like, it's one thing to know it, but when you've got ancestral and karmic journeys wrapped up in all of those cute little fucking theories you've got, it's like, it's not the same, it's like,
Mhm.
well, the spiritual theory is this. However, right now there's some kind of like intertwined something else going on here, and like, fuck that theory, right?
Yeah.
So that's normal. That's normal. That's fine. That's where the growth is. That's where, the expansion is. That's where she calls you forwards into your expansion and you call her forwards into hers. And yeah. And the more that you give yourself permission to be in your feelings and actually to not put her first, I think the more that she'll calm. I totally know it's a system, but she won't feel like it'll feel more secure to her. She won't feel this responsibility of like, okay, my mum's trying to calm me down now, so I have to calm. I have to find calm so that my mum gets her success, kind of, if that makes sense. If she's trying to do this,
totally.
like, I want my mum to know that she's helped me, and like, I don't want my mum to feel like if she's trying to help me and nothing's helping, so I feel almost like an obligation to be better because of how much she's helping me. It'll lighten her load sometimes to be like, you don't have to be better, and I'm not stepping in here. You have
Yes.
everything you need to process
Yeah.
this. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you don't even process it and you hold on to it for a couple of days or until next time it gets triggered. Like, that's also okay. Things don't have to
Yeah.
be always processed. So bringing
Yeah.
that to her life might just be like, so I don't always have to get to a place where I work out what I need to process and then get to the good feeling.
Yeah. And I'm actually cool with that. Like I'm as long as I didn't have to stay there and be with it, I'm cool with it. And it's when there's that tangle of having to be held there but not being able to resolve it, willing to resolve anything.
Yeah.
That it's that, and I think it is that thing of being willing to just leave to hold it, whatever it is.
Yeah, and exactly right. And just don't take responsibility. Okay, if you aren't feeling ready to process this, if you're not being called to process this, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave. I'm not going to you are loved. You are safe. You matter to me. Okay? But I matter to me too. And I'm going to go and do what I need to do. And you are welcome to feel how you need to feel for as long as you need to feel it. There's nothing to do.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks so much, Holly.
Very welcome, darling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kathy, I like talking about it. It's a really good question, darling. And I saw Shelley commented on your thing saying she loves this too, about sleepovers, yeah? I'm going to preface this with, one of my little clauses that Libby highlighted at when she introduced me at Purpose Street. You know how she did all the little Hollyisms or whatever she calls them. And I'll preface that by saying I'm going to share with you my perspective, okay? You do what you want as a parent because it has
That's what I'm here for.
It
That's
has
what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to align with your values and it has to feel right for you. And I fully respect that sometimes the way I do things just doesn't sit right with someone else. Like, I'm not here to tell you that, like, this is what makes you a good parent. I just offer and you pick up what resonates, take the pearls, leave the shells, right? I am the biggest advocate. I fucking love sleepovers and I think every child should be encouraged to have them. And I think that society, and look, with valid reason, I know, but like the whole fear-mongering shit about like we're so fucking afraid of what might happen to our children, at a sleepover and this whole, and I totally get it. If something did, we'd never forgive ourselves or like whatever, right? But keeping in mind, especially when it comes to things like sexual abuse and stuff, that 99.99% of those cases are happening right under people's noses by people that are the closest, like grandparents or uncles and people that we wouldn't question to think about, right? So, like, you know, it always comes like left field anyway. So it's like what we're removing from their life. The principle is what the experience that I might choose to remove from their life, does that balance you know, the payoff I get for it. So for example, I save them from ever being, let's say, sexually abused or something, right? I save them from the possibility of that. That's a definite if they don't have sleepovers, okay? But the experiences that I've removed from their life, do they match up to the minuscule possibility of that, right? Now, let me go into what I believe what we need to take responsibility for and be conscious of if we are going to do sleepovers and allow sleepovers, yeah? At the end of the day, the only thing our children always have with them, the only thing that we can ever fully rely on and have faith in is their internal guidance systems, right? Their internal guidance systems that they will be in tune with themselves enough to pick up on vibes and to trust themselves, right? This is where I believe sleepovers are the freaking best things, because if we don't give our children opportunities to be in lots of different environments and different homes and different situations where they are feeling like this family's weird, geez, he yelled at her and my dad doesn't talk to my mum like that, and oh geez, like all of these experiences, seeing how other families work and feeling into that, they literally miss opportunities to wire themselves into what scared me. And when they're younger, they're more sensitive to it, so they're better, it's better, right? So what I always told my children, so obviously as a parent, especially when they're younger, you want to suss out the parents that they're going to sleep at their house with, right? But in saying that, I remember a conversation with Bea. I reckon she just went to CLG, so maybe like she was like grade 3, so what's that, 8 or 9 or something, 9 maybe. And she wanted to stay at this girl Alicia's house. Fuck, I remember this very clearly as it's coming to me. And I had never met these parents. But what happened was I was going away for a weekend, and the kids were with me, and I had to go away, and their dad was already away or something, right? Anyway, and I had organized my kids to go to these other places, these other friends' places that I was comfortable with. And then that week or a couple of days before, the friend that Bea was supposed to stay with cancelled or whatever happened, and I had to find somewhere else, right? And Bea's like, I want to stay at Alicia's house, right? And I was in a bit of a rock and a hard place. Like I fucking needed someone to have the kid, right? But I've never really, I've chatted to the dad who picks her up in the schoolyard, and that's it. I've never been to their house. I've never seen how they live or anything, right? And so I definitely was nervous about it. I was definitely like, fuck, like. But the conversation I had was this. Because I remember, like she said to me at the time, because they always knew, yeah, I'm happy if you have a sleepover. I need to meet their parents. Like, maybe I'll organize it, this and that. So my girls always knew that was one of my processes, right? I'd like to meet their parents, just so that I can feel comfortable and safe, and to know that you'll be looked after the way that I want my children looked after. That's how I used to put it to them, right? Without putting fear in them. Now, when this situation, Bea's like, oh, but how will you meet the parents? And I ended up saying to her, do you know what? This is something I love. That in situations where I don't get the chance to like meet people or feel into it, you know what? I don't have to worry. Do you know why? Because I know you can feel into things. I know that you're so connected to yourself that if anything didn't feel right to you, and the example I gave, because you don't want to, scare them with like sexuality stuff or whatever. The example I said, for example, other families are different to ours. And sometimes, for example, in some family, they shout at each other a lot. And that's okay. That's how they do things. That's that family. But because you're not used to that, your body might be like, oh, I don't really want to stay here. He's scary because his voice is too loud or something, right? And it doesn't mean that he's a mean, nasty person. Sometimes that's just how people live, and they don't even think it's anything weird. That's just normal for them, right? So I made it a bit of but you've got something inside you that will know if you don't feel safe for any reason. So I don't need to be able to trust your friends as you get older, because I trust you. I trust your ability to trust yourself. You are connected to yourself. and you trust yourself. So you have a phone, you have a, iPad or whatever. If ever there's anything that even if your brain doesn't know the reason, you've just got a feeling that it feels a bit weird or something, you call me, right? You call me and you will always have an answer or something. And if I had to, I'd call another friend to go pick her up or something if I wasn't in town, right? So what I tuned my kids into is like, you have an internal guidance system in you. That is our best bet, that you are kept safe in life. If you can always tune into that, you will keep yourself safe. And if you can basically keep yourself safe by knowing how to be connected to that, I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry who your friends are, because you can feel who your friends are. I don't have to worry where you're going, because you can feel if you're in the right place or not. And I trust what you feel. I trust your intuition so much. So number one, it wires them even deeper into feeling like we trust them. And the more we trust them, the more they trust themselves, right? And the more they feel into that. And I'm like, if ever you're gonna be sexually abused, if we start working with some probability now, okay, like typically, frequencies and vibrations, we attract that which we are. For example, if we use those examples, the chances of like my kids or our kids, whatever, being abused is low. I'm gonna be conscious. I'm gonna check in with parents. I'm gonna talk to them on the phone. I'm gonna get my own vibe for things. All of those things together makes it very small, very small. As they get older, it starts getting more possible, because they're teenagers, they get taken advantage of, they're wrapped up in fucking love bubbles, and they're not getting raped by some like friend's dad. It's more like a boyfriend that they said no to, that took advantage of them, or they got drunk and didn't know what they were fucking doing. Those situations are the more possible or probable situations. So my take on this was, by the time you're those ages, I want you fucking so tuned into the subtleties of what you might feel, the fucking earliest signs of something's just not right here. I'm not going to jump the gun maybe, but I've got my guards up, and I'm like in a hyper vigilant kind of state. Like I'm now like looking out for things, kind of like I want you in that place by the time you're at an age where it's probably more possible that something could go wrong for you. Does that make sense? But how do you tune into that if you don't get opportunities to experience? If the only vibrations and the only frequencies that you've ever really had to tune into are, nanas and poppers and really good friends and aunties and uncles and just complete safe people, you don't even know what it's like to be around someone that might be safe, but just different. They shout or they do this. And you're like, okay, I didn't really like that. I don't really like her dad, but I still like going to her house because I like my friend. I just don't really like her dad. Okay, but you're safe, right? And that's okay. And sometimes you need to learn that, because you're going to have a boss one day that's like that or something. Who knows? Other times it's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, her dad's actually a nice guy. Her mum's a nice woman, but I just fucking get an icky vibe there. I just don't want to go there again. These are the conversations that I'd have with my kids about how did it feel and how did bedtime feel, and like, what happens here? And we open up lots of conversations over the years, so many. And they're like, I worry about my girls zero now. I don't meet any of the parents anymore. Even Miami's 12. I don't know. I literally, can I go? Like, I don't even talk to the parents. I drop them off half the time at the front of the house. I have, my kids will organize it on text with them and stuff like that. And I'm just really comfortable with that. I really am. I just don't think my girls, they have pretty good friends, which probably means they have pretty good parents. And if my girls picked up on any kind of vibe, they would fucking call me. They'd be like, Mum, I just don't want to stay here. And we've got a code that if ever they send me an emoji, so it's not, they don't have to say anything. We had this code where if you ever send me a message with any emoji, it doesn't have to be like this specific one, because you might have to, under the kitchen table, just, click a button or something. If ever it comes through with like just one letter or one emoji, it's like a bit of a weird message. If I ever get that, I'm going to call and I'm going to pretend something's just happened at home and I need to come and pick you up right now. And it's like, you're like, oh, sorry, my mum said I have to go home. I don't know what's happened. I have to go. So if ever, if your messages have words and emojis or love you, goodbye, thank you, then it's a real message. If it's ever this one emoji or one letter or something, so that you can do it in your pocket, even like you're not even looking at your phone, you're just fucking sending something, I'm going to call and say, I'm sorry, I need to come pick her up. Something's just happened at home and I need her home right now.
Yeah. So that's how I have always felt, kind of thing. Like, I'm not trying to sound like a know-it-all with what you've said, but totally what you've said is how I've kind of handled it in the past. And like, I've just always felt that the people, like, I get the vibe from my girls that they wouldn't want to go somewhere anyway, like you were saying, the vibes of a family or a person.
Yep.
So I've always felt like, yeah, if they didn't want to go, they wouldn't ask me. Sometimes I can tell if my girls don't want to go, and they'll just say to me, like that their friend keeps bugging them. They keep bugging me, Mum. They keep asking me, and if it's like they're waiting for me to say, well, no, you can't go, or yes, you can, and then I say, oh, well, do you not want to go, or and then they'll go, oh, not really, and I'm like, well, then don't go. Like, so yeah, like I can kind of, but we've never had any issues, but it's just, yeah, I guess something just put that into my head and made me second guess the way I'm doing it. But
I love
I've
that.
never, yeah, like I've never felt alarmed about them going anywhere, and they're always close by anyway in our local area. But it has been a bit different now that Ruby, like, because Ruby's going to Urbray for the second year, so there's a different bunch of friends and they live in different places. Most of them live up in the hills, but you know, just even the other day I took her to a birthday party and all of her big group were going. But even when I got to this place, it was like way out at Harrogate or somewhere. It was real, like, I don't know, I felt it was weird.
Okay.
Like, I dropped her there and it was like, she wasn't a sleepover. It was just a day thing, but all her regular, and I just felt comforted that, well, all her other friends are there who we all live around, like all their parents have all, like, you know, they're okay. And I met the dad and everything, but I don't know, I feel it still felt a little bit funny.
Yep.
But in myself, but I could see Ruby and all her friends were happy and everything was, there was nothing out of place. And even though I had a funny, weird feeling in my body, I still left her there, kind of thing.
I've done that too.
And they had the best time, like, you know, and so yeah, it was just mainly, yeah, I guess I just let someone else, another opinion that I heard, get into me, and I was like I was triggered because I do let the girls have sleepovers. But yeah, I've always felt that they wouldn't ask to go somewhere and spend the night if they really didn't feel comfortable or not scared, you know? So yeah.
I always just remind you can always change your mind. Oh, I don't know if I want to stay there. Well, babe, like once you make a decision, it's not permanent. You're allowed to move. You're allowed to change your mind. So let's do the emoji thing. Why don't you just go there, see how it feels, feel into it? Or we can do it the other way. I can say, look, at this stage, I tell you what, you know, Amani can come over and play. She can stay till dinner time. I'm just not sure if she'll be able to do a sleepover. I'm just waiting to get a call back from her nana that I won't get until around dinner time. So I tell you what, I'll give you a call at dinner time. She's got her clothes in case she can stay over, but I might need to come get her by 7:30. I'll let you know. I'm just waiting on a call. So I'd make up a story and do it the other way and say, okay, well, I'll just say that, you know, instead of me coming, oh, she's got to come home now, we can go, okay, she's actually coming. Look, I wanted to stay. She wants to stay, but I'm just waiting on a call because if we do have to end up going to, you know, her grandparents or something like that early in the morning, then she can't stay because I'm not coming to pick her up early. So I'll let you know at the last, and then I'll ring in, I'll check in on whichever child it is and be like, hey, babe, like, you know, so what's the go? Like, you know, are you feeling it? And then I'm like, yeah, now that I'm here, it's like, I don't want you to come. I'm like, okay, cool. No worries. Yeah. So you can always let them know, like, you can change your mind. You can go and then wish you hadn't, and then I'll come get you. And I'll say it's my fault. I'll just make up something. We're always on the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm always willing to, this is why I don't say, you know, don't tell lies. No, lies are good. Lies have their place. And I'll tell a lie any day of the week in a situation like this without hesitation. I'll lie for you, you know? So and that's not a bad thing, you know? So
yeah, I've had to, yeah. And so we've had one years ago before high school with Ruby where like this is going to sound, I don't know how this is going to sound, but there was no way I was going to let her stay at this house.
Yeah.
And they kept bugging all the time, and they live local, and I was just like, yeah, and I know this is going to sound horrible too, maybe judgmental, but you know, it's a small town, and I knew of things that were going on, and also with the older siblings, an older brother that was at our school, he was saying, yeah, and just doing sort of weird things with girls at, you know, younger girls at school, not doing things, just like the remarks and the language he was using, and
100%.
I was like,
I don't want my kid in that environment.
And I actually said that to Ruby, that I'm like, you're not fucking staying there. She's like, oh. So then I feel like I probably didn't handle it well that back then. I was like, but then I did explain it to her later on. I'm like, look, I just don't feel right.
Yep.
And I did let her stay there once eventually, because the older sister had a friend over as well, and we knew this other girl. So we knew the other girl that was staying as well, and so that kind of made me feel a bit better.
Definitely.
So I did let her sleep there the same night the older sister was having her friend.
Yep.
Just so I knew there was a bit of
Someone else.
security. Yeah, and everything was okay. Like,
Yep.
it was okay, but it hasn't
Always
happened
go on
since.
feelings. Always trust those vibes. I've done the same.
Yeah.
I've gotten to places, and you know, and I will be judgmental to a certain degree, and I'm not going to try not to be, because my judgments are what help me make my decisions. So I remember dropping Bayer off at a place, you know, when she's only gone there for a few, like meant to go there for the day, like just, you know, maybe 5 hours. And when I got there, this house was squalor. So, I mean, fucking squalor. I mean, you couldn't even walk in. I don't even know how long this mold shit had been on the bench. It was like KFC wrappers. I'm like I was actually legit in so much shock. I got to the door, and I'm like, you know, Bay was so excited, whatever. So she went off and played. And like this mother was like, oh, do you want to come in? And I was just like, what? I can't even, I'm like fucking beyond feral, okay? And I'm like, okay. I literally just, okay, I'll see you later. And it even stunk and everything. I'm like, but I didn't say anything at the time. I got in the car and I rang Greg, her dad, when we were together. And I was like, my God, this house, she can't stay there. We need to pick her up in like half an hour. Can like whatever. So I went back and got her, but I was at fucking oath. You will not be going there again, ever. Like, absolutely. I will judge that. And I don't judge. You live how you want to live. But if I'm going to be in that environment, I will judge that and work out whether or not that aligns for me or my child. And so I don't judge how you choose to live. Do what you like. I just won't be involved in that.
And it also works the other way, because when Ruby, so she's year 8 this year, so last year for her birthday, like, obviously they've made a big group of new friends. So she's come from a tiny school to a massive school, and they've got a group of friends, and a lot of those friends actually live around us, but they'd never met until they went to Urberray. So they're all close by. But even when the birthday parties started happening, it was like, you know, Ruby had a sleepover here with all her friends, and like some of these parents, like, we hadn't even met each other, I don't think, some of us, but they just would drop their kids off here. Do you know what I mean? Like, and even it made me not feel uncomfortable, but I was like, wow, they just like dropped their girls off here. There was like going to be 10 of them, so there's like, oh my God. But I was like, they just dropped their girls off here. They don't really know us. They don't really like, I'm like, what the hell? And then, but it kind of makes you feel good, because you're like, well, obviously there's no alarm bells there, you know?
I'm like, see ya, bye. I see good. If you're not, she'll call me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially in high school. Like, I haven't been into any of their houses. I haven't even met half the parents. I drop them off out the front. I didn't get out of the car.
Yeah. So I felt like with Ruby, it's just been a trust thing where I'm just like, well, yeah, she's pretty tuned in to people, I think.
Right to you, babe. If it feels right to you, the answer is always yes, if it feels right to you. And if at any moment it doesn't feel right to you, give me a call, use our little code, give me a call. And maybe, you know, I remember that's right. That was another code we had. It's like if they wanted to come home, what they'd do is they'd be like, Amani came up with this until I came up with the emoji thing with Baya. But it was back at Westminster. Anyway, and it was like if for any reason they didn't want to stay, even if like they just get bored of their friend or anything, then they'd be like, they'd tell their friend they want to stay longer. So then they'd ring me and be like, Mum, can I stay here longer? Please, 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 please. They'll go like this. And then I'm like, no, no, you cannot. Like, and then I'm like, they don't want to stay. They probably want to stay shorter. They'd add like the please, 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 please. Like, and I'll be like, actually, I was just about to call. Actually, you can't even sleep over tonight anymore. You can stay there till dinner time. And then when I would say that, they'd be like, oh, please, 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 please. That means like, no, not dinner time. Or whatever. And so we had this, like, me and Amani used to have this thing. If ever she was like, please, 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 and then it meant like, do not say yes to this. Please say no to this. My friend wants me to stay longer, but I don't want to. So that the please, please, please makes it sound to my friend like I really wanted to, but my mum just wouldn't let me, So we had that little code back in there.
Totally. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
They have little codes, and other than that, leave it up to them.
Yeah. No, I'm cool with that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing beautiful. I love that. I'm glad that all you needed tonight was validation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No worries. Cool. Good to see you.
Yes.
All right. Al, are you still there? Oh, I'll answer your question. It's pretty
only if there's time.
That's okay. It's pretty easy anyway. Is Larry there with you? Is that his arm I can see?
He's working. Do you want to listen to the answer?
No. I thought that blue thing behind your neck was his arm, but maybe it's
no. We just got him done.
It's fine.
He's just working.
I read your whole thing about Ian's behavior, in front of your grandparents. And the whole answer there, like everything you've said about, taking toys and that, those are things you can do. Here's what I wanted to say to you. And that is, none of that is his problem. It's all your problem. But I mean, like, in the way that it's a problem in terms of like his behavior was a problem. It's just that there's something going on with you where you, like you said, love that you owned it, by the way. Love that you're like, yep, I feel embarrassed and ashamed that my kid is, treating a great grandparent like that, because, you've been brought up with this total, I can tell, this beautiful respect for particularly the elderly and older people and their ways of doing things and all that. And so, anything that he's doing that's against that, all I would say is this: be confident in your parenting in front of anybody. So meaning, like, if Eden is not making good choices, fucking parent him in front of them. Be like, Eden, you need to stop. No, like, and you can tell him off in front of them, or you can be like, no, that's it. Okay, you're going to need to sit on my lap. No, you cannot hop off my lap now. Or, that is anything like that. Like, because I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong here at any moment, by the way, because I was kind of just feeling into it. But it's more like what you were hoping for was, and maybe you even subconsciously built this expectation, which is why it was so hard for you to adjust, of like, wanting your grandparent or great grandparent, whoever it is, your grandparent, to be like proud of you for how you've raised your child. And so, and grandparents go, if children come in and they're all using their manners and they're sweet and they're sitting still and they're being, obedient, compliant little children, our grandparents from that era will be like, gosh, he's a good little boy. You've done a good job raising him. Like, and we'll get that kind of credit from our grandparents, right? Because he's a good little boy and he's just so quiet and he just sits in the corner. So when he's not being that, like if you've gone there hoping and wanting, for your grandparent to be proud of, how you're a parent, or proud of your child, or proud of you, and then you've gotten there and he's not being that, the problem I feel was that you might have been trying to correct him without it being out loud, without being like, sit still, kind of like a, or don't, or, like almost just wishing he would do it without needing the discipline or the correction from you.
No, we were both trying to talk to him, but then I guess I was feeling like, are they watching me for how I'm talking to him as well? Yeah. But it's also like, well, he needs to like not kick them and 100%. And I was going to bring toys, but yeah, I usually bring more we just weren't planning on staying that long, and he was asking to go there, so that's why I was like, maybe he'll be okay.
Got you thrown because you're like, he wants to go there, so he'll probably be really good, and my grandparents will, like if Eden's in his best self, like it'll be perfect, right? But yeah, I think that listen, what I would say is this: our children, part of resilience and part of adaptability is learning what they can and can't do in different environments, because that's how life works. Yeah, you can do that at home, but you will get in trouble for doing that at grandpa's house. You can jump on the couch at home. Don't you will be in trouble for that here. And if you're like, oh, but it might confuse them, bad luck. Like, they need to learn that. And as part of that resilience, they can learn that you're a different mom. You talk to me differently, and my dad is different to me when we're at grandpa's house, because my parents are normally talking to me all conscious and, Eden, you need to stop that, please. What's your choices? Please check yourself. Eden, next time, use your manners, all these things, right? But when we go to grandpa's house, you're like, Eden, sit down now, or whatever. Like, it's just like, whoa, there's a whole change in you. And that's okay. That is okay. That I will parent you differently in different situations. If we go out to a random pizza place for dinner, I don't really care that you're sitting on your knees and you're jumping around and whatever. I take you to the Shiki Teppanyaki bar and fucking you're going to be acting like absolute 5-star little, like, princess. Yeah. And that's the deal. It's called etiquette. It's called life. It's called society. And yeah, and if you're a child that literally cannot control yourself in certain ways, or you're a sensory child that needs to be jumping around, then it's pretty cruel of me to take you to an environment where I'm going to expect you to not be like that and then make you have a hard night and I have a hard night. So I just won't bring you to those places. I just won't even do that to myself. Yeah, but it's okay for you to be a different parent in front of your grandparents. And you can parent if you feel like you are in a situation at any moment where, if anything, you want more of your, let's say, your grandparents' validation in terms of, like, instead of them judging you for you talking to Eden with all this conscious language, you don't have to be conscious. You need to say, Eden, you need to stop or you're going to be in big trouble. And that might be something you barely say at home. But it's okay to say it there, because then your grandparents are like, yeah, that's how kids, otherwise, what do our grandparents do? Oh, he needs a good smack on the ass. Oh, he needs to, you guys are all too bloody soft on your kids these days. When back in my day, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. So when you're in front of them, you can parent a little bit harder. 100% fine. 100% fine. And you can do that even to, not to the point where you, like, of course, like, actually make Eden feel unsafe or something like that, or you can still be conscious about it, but you can also do it in a way that impresses your grandpa a little bit. If you think, like, to you it's not a big deal, but your grandpa's like, I can't believe you just let him do that, like, you can be a little bit old school in those situations. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, does that feel like that helps you? I feel like you just needed permission to just do whatever you felt like you needed to do to be respectful, to be respectful to your grandpa. Right? Like, I feel like that's what you're trying to balance. Like, you have this great respect for like your elders or whatever, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's one of your beautiful values, and that's great. And so you're like, how do I do conscious parenting and still have the respect to my I don't want my grandpa feeling like, geez, I hope you guys don't come back again. Here's a little shithead just because he was not having a bad day that day.
Yeah. Well, they were Larry's grandparents, but
Italians even harder. Hey, Larry.
Yeah, that's right.
But with my grandfather, like, it's also, he's just really rough. So I guess it's like the right language to use to say that we can't, like, we tried to talk to him after he pushed my grandfather, but because he's like 96, he's really unsteady on his feet. So he nearly actually pushed him over. Because they were being silly. That these guys are, like, quite silly anyway at dinner, but he's sitting down when that happens.
Right.
So then it's just kind of making him understand that we were saying, older people are a bit fragile, and I guess understanding that he can't be silly with old people, and particularly rough with them, because he will knock them over. He could knock them over.
Yeah. Absolutely, you can teach him that. And you can be descriptive about that. It's not being rude. You can say, you know, when you see old people, the people with all the wrinkly skin and the people that have their shoulders like this, you can like mimic an old person for him, or what your grandparents might look like, or when they've got one of those sticks. You can give him visual cues to look out for like, what does it mean when you say old person? And that's not you being rude saying they've got wrinkly, like old people have wrinkly skin. They're normally hunched over. So you can give him some visual cues around when, if you ever see someone like, we can never be rough with those people, never, ever, ever. And then get him on the way there. If you have these conversations and you're ever concerned, get him to say it himself. So you have a talk with him about how, you know, we're going to go see grandpa and blah, blah, blah. And this is the deal. And, you know, but can we push someone like, can we be rough with grandpa? No. And then, you know, you have this whole thing going on with him. And then when Larry gets home, you're like, now, Eden, can you tell daddy, where are we going tomorrow? Oh, we're going to grandpa's. And tell daddy, what do we need to do with old people? What can we do at grandpa's house, you know? And then in the car on the way there. Now, Eden, I can't remember. What are all the rules when we're around old people? Because we're going to be with old people today. What are the rules again? Can you remind me? Maybe daddy's forgotten. Can you tell? Anything you can do to get him to tell one of you guys what the rules are, like, or what the boundaries are, or what he can't do, that more deeply like programs and sees his subconscious if he's the one saying it. So any situation you can do to get him to remind somebody and play the whole game, like Larry can be like, oh, or when I get with grandpa, I'm going to have a wrestle game with him. He'll be like, no, daddy, you cannot. You cannot have a wrestle game with grandpa. Oh, well, maybe I'll jump on his lap. No, like you and Larry can almost play this little game in front of Eden. And then you can be, Eden, are we allowed to do that? You know, he can make it fun and laugh. The more like fun it feels, the more he'll take it on.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Brilliant. Okay, well, that is it. Yeah, perfect. Oh, 4 girls will have their own bedroom soon. Oh, you're doing renos or something, Cass? That's cool. Cool. Have fun. All right, beautiful people. It's late, especially if you're in the eastern states. It's like 11:15. We're over time. I love you all. If you're Mel and you're in WA, it's like lunchtime. But anyway, not quite. I know it's late there too now. You're only an hour and a half behind us now. But I will see you all either on the Conscious Community Call this Sunday with Ina Segal, or I will see you back here next week, yeah?